Is there some scenario under which a General Motors somehow would have remained in this place, and that this could have remained a prosperous place, as at the same time that Japanese automakers were emerging from the ashes of World War II and global forces were so powerful? I mean, is there actually a significantly different sequence of events that could have happened?
Okay. So I'm not accustomed to answering counterfactual sort of questions like that, but for the sake of this conversation, let's do it. I think that yes and no. I mean, part of the problem with GM in the late 20th century is that there was a certain hubris among local executives about the preference for large gas-guzzling automobiles. Even though evidence in the 1970s was suggesting that people in large numbers were turning toward smaller, more fuel-efficient cars, executives in Flint and Detroit looked at those shifts as signs of delusion among consumers and believed that they would ultimately always go back to GM's staple large cars. And so part of the problem that GM faced was due to those failures of imagination among its corporate executives. And yet there's also a sense in which things could have turned out differently, at least for a time, in metropolitan Flint. And this is where the 5th chapter of my book on this failed New Flint plan is really important, because, as I said, GM is relocating all these plants outside in the suburbs, but they want to have those plants returned to the city. Now, can you imagine if they were successful in either annexing or creating that regional government? Flint's industrial infrastructure would have been extremely impressive, one of the most impressive in the United States. And many of those plants in the suburbs are still open today. And so the timing of Flint's industrial crisis would have been shifted much later had the city been able to annex those plants or capture them through a regional government. But the truth is that alongside of all these local forces that could have shifted the outcome, there were also much larger global forces driving GM executives to seek out low-wage opportunities in other parts of the country and world. But one of the ironies of Flint's economic crisis is that over the last 20 years, civic leaders in the city have been advertising Flint as something of a low-wage haven, a place where you can come in and set up shop and pay a 2-tier wage structure where the UAW is not going to cause any problems for you. They've been able to market themselves kind of the way that old cities in the South and the Sun Belt did following World War II, as lower wage sectors that are amenable to business and investment. And one of the ironies of Flint's story is that prior to the water crisis, GM had actually invested substantially in some new industrial infrastructure in Flint. They built a new engine plant, a new paint facility. Now, those new facilities didn't create large numbers of jobs for local workers, but they were certainly signs that GM had not abandoned the city, as you said, but rather was looking everywhere for new opportunities, wherever they could meet the bottom line.